Hey guys, this is Tyler from the Herrintons, and today I'm bringing you a new type of video I've actually never done before. I'm going to be breaking down a wedding film. I actually got this idea to do this type of video from Craig Adams over at Wedding Film School, so definitely go check him out on YouTube. He has an amazing YouTube channel with tons of educational content, but recently I've been watching a lot of his videos where he breaks down his edits, and I found it really helpful for me, so I figured that maybe by doing one, it would be really helpful for you. So we're going to jump right into Premiere Pro and get started. Alright, so here we are in Adobe Premiere Pro CC. This is the editing software that I use. I really like Adobe just because of the way that all the different programs talk to each other, and when I was in school I had to have the entire Creative Suite anyway for graphic design, so it just kind of made sense since this was included. But what I'm going to talk about today really isn't going to be super specific. This is going to be pretty universal information that you can use no matter what editing system it is that you use. So before we jump into the actual edit itself, I want to kind of just show you really quick the way I have this project set up. So you can see here that I have everything really well organized into folders. I have an audio folder here with soundtrack, and then this is the actual song that I purchased. This is a WAV file, and then here are some temporary songs that I have that I just have in here that I can use to throw in for when I get to the feature film edit and things like that. But these are just watermarks, so I don't actually own those yet. This is where I keep the WAV file here. Under footage, I have it broken down by camera. So you can see it's really easy for me to navigate through here and find all the different footage that I need. Under effects and stills, this is where I keep anything extra that isn't directly from the wedding. So these are my Cinescope crop lines, our end card, and then any adjustment layers or anything like that. This is a really helpful folder for non-wedding projects as well. It just helps keep all this stuff super organized. And then I have sequences, and the way that I work is I actually do cull sequences. So what I'll do is I'll go through all of the footage from the each specific camera, in this case the 5D, and I actually make a timeline here with just all of the good clips. I just throw them down into this timeline so that when I go to put together the actual film, I can pick from up here, and I'm only looking at good footage as opposed to trying to scrub through all the footage and find the different pieces that I'm looking for, that kind of thing. So that's really helpful. And what I actually started doing recently is on the C100 footage, you can see here that I was actually labeling each individual section. So you can see here this is Maggie reading the note. This is, getting into the dress. This is Groom Prep. I gave it a different color, So I actually found this really helpful. It took a little bit of time to do as I was going through the edit, but I found this really helpful when I was putting together the film, that I could go right to what I needed and get the exact shot that I wanted. So we have the cull sequences, and then down here is where I have all my sync sequences. These come from Pluralize. Pluralize is the program that I use to sync together any multicam sequences. So for a wedding, most of the time it's going to be the first look, the ceremony, and the speeches. Those are the three main times when I will have a multicam sequence. But these all go in here, and you can see as I import them, it creates a separate sequence here, as well as all the camera audio and things like that. So I just like to keep all this stuff nice and neat, nice and organized. So it makes it really easy to find. And then just within this general sequences folder is where I put the actual versions. If I had multiple versions, I would have V2, V3, V4, etc. I like to make duplicate sequences here, just in case I decide I want to go back. I don't like the edits that I made. It's a lot easier to just refer back to an older version, as opposed to having to undo all the work that you just did that you may not like. Okay, so that's pretty much how I set up the project. I have that set up the same way for pretty much every single wedding, every single video project for that matter. And if you look here in the Finder, this is where, this is James and Maggie's folder here on my hard drive, and you can see that it's pretty much an exact mirror. I have a few things that are a little bit different, but for the most part you can see that these reflect each other, and that just makes it really easy to keep everything nice and organized. And really easy to find everything. So, all right, so let's jump right into it. So this is a highlight film that we did for James and Maggie. They got married at Pippin Hill over in Charlottesville just back in March here. So it is a, let's see, 3.5 minute film. I don't know why these got turned off. Let's turn the timer markers back on here. Here we go. All right. So this is about a 3.5 minute long film. This is pretty standard length for our highlight films. We offer two different packages, or two different films rather. We offer a highlight film, which is 3 to 5 minutes, and then a feature film, which is 10 to 12 minutes. So this is a highlight film. This is what usually goes on our blog, and this is sort of my favorite film to edit, just what I'm most used to. But I'm starting to like more and more the longer edits as well. So as I've kind of been progressing through my editing style. But you can see here, let's make this a little bit bigger here so you can kind of just see the way we have this organized. So the top layers here are all the video files. The bottom layers are all the audio files. So up here I have a few layers that are just locked down. This is the Cinescope crop lines that gives me that cinematic look. And then this is where I put the adjustment layer for the color grade. And we'll talk more about that later. I have a third layer here that's just anything extra. And then most of the time I put the audio, or just sort of like the base, my base video line goes on the bottom here. And then I layer everything on top of that. And then for the audio, I have a muted track here for any scenes that I don't want the audio to be heard. And then I have these two, 3 and 4 here, is where I put all the audio that is heard. So most of the time this is coming from recorders, things like that. And then of course down here I have my soundtrack layer. So that's the basic way I have it laid out. And let's just start going through this edit. So I'm just going to kind of go through this shot by shot and kind of just explain everything, show you a little bit of the color grading, show you a little bit of everything. So here we go. All right, so for the opening,
today we not only celebrate.
We start with this nice drone shot here, just a really simple pullback, just to kind of introduce you to the space, to show you where we are. James and Maggie, this title here. I'm starting to do more titles and things like that this year. I'm trying to go for a more cinematic look, make our films just feel a little bit more polished, more refined. So I'm making a few little changes here and there, but I'm really, really digging the results. So, and we also start off with this audio here. This is her dad's speech, and he talks about how it's almost St. Patrick's Day and those types of things. So I like that it kind of just sets the scene, reminds you of when we are in the year and where we are and why we're celebrating.
Today we not only celebrate the marriage of Maggie and James, but being that this is the unofficial St. Patrick's Day weekend.
So just a few establishing shots here. We have this just simple tilt down of the vineyards to show where we are, with the nice mountains in the background, and then a nice slider shot here, just to again to show a little bit more context, set the scene, see the mountains, you see how pretty it is. Pippin Hill is one of our favorite venues, so everything here is just gorgeous. And then, first thing we want to see, the first people we always want to see are the bride and groom. This is a story about them. This is their day. So we want them to be the first thing we see. So we're going to do a few just nice beauty shots here. This is with the monopod. All these monopod shots, and then a nice wide shot. And we cut here to the shot of the dad. You can see this is nicely framed. He's actually backlit by this light over here, which was sort of just like a lucky accident. I asked the DJ specifically if he could put a mic stand, or the leader of the band rather, if he could put a mic stand here. I love having mic stands because it just makes it so the person talking stays in place. It makes it so they're less prone to wander. They're not going to be wandering all around the dance floor. It makes it really easy to just get a really nice tight shot here. I like having the people in the background as opposed to the band or something like that, just trying to keep it nice and neutral. This is Ash on a 70 to 200, probably around like 180 millimeters. At 2.8, it was super dark in here. So, you got this nice blown out background. And I just like this side profile shot. He's looking this direction. The bride and groom are sitting over here.
And your blessings be more.
So this is my shot here. I was shooting with the C100 for most of the day. This is an 85 1.2 on the C100. Shooting pretty wide open. I don't know if it's at 1.2, but it's pretty close. It was really dark in there. But we did have a reaction cam on him, on the bride and groom here. I just liked this angle. And you'll see here, I love that, just that look where she looks right at him, as he's talking about the two of them. And and then we're out. We're out of that little intro. With these short 3.5-minute films, you really kind of got to keep things moving. I have a tendency to want to really drag at the beginning to show a lot of the details and stuff like that, and then I usually run out of time at the end to really get all the other stuff in that I need to. So you've got to really make all your shots count and make everything with a purpose. So, all right. So the first shot we see here is going to be this slider shot. This is the C100 with the 18 to 35, probably around 18. And I love having this table right here just to give a really sense of this feel and of this movement. And I have my slider just sitting on the ground here for this shot. So we're trying to just match the pacing here with the music. Some detail shots of the dress, showing a nice wide, simple shot showing the bride getting her hair done. I really like these wide pull downs with this sort of like bottom third framing. Got some natural audio right here. You can see just really, simply bring it in, kind of fade it in and fade it out. Really simple. Just that little sound of the hairspray. And then we're showing some details.
Maggie, can you believe
this is a macro shot here, and I actually put a little bit of a move on it in post. So the nice thing about these crop marks, I can show you what it would look like without the crop marks. So without the crop marks, it looks like this, and you can actually see if I show you the whole shot here exactly what I did.
Maggie, can you believe this?
See how I did that? I digitally have it sliding down. And when you have the crop marks on there, you can't see, but it just adds a little bit extra movement because all it was a rack focus. So as I rack focus, I'm also digitally moving it down, and it's not losing any quality or anything like that. It just gives it a little bit more of a dynamic shot. And then here is where we are bringing in her audio from her reading her note. She did an awesome job reading her note. James wrote a really, really sweet note. So I really like using that audio to really tell their story, to make it more personal. And, it's just really great sound bites here.
Maggie, can you believe this day is finally here? We started this journey together some time ago.
Okay. Let's see. All right, so here's the audio from her reading her note here. You can see, we got good waveforms. All right, so again, this shows their names and some details, and then we have this nice pullback of the flowers, again, just adding a little bit of detail. This is just shot with a monopod, and again, the 18 to 35 is kind of my go-to lens on the C100, and just a nice simple pull across, and I did have this stabilized. I stabilized a lot of my monopod shots just because I want it to be buttery smooth, and sometimes there's a little bit of shake in there.
Different sense, I started on this journey long before that.
And then just this nice little detail shot to show, again, where we are, a little bit of extra context showing, Pippin Hill, they're known for their wines. So wanted to show that detail there. Ties in with this next scene, which is where they're going to do a champagne toast. This is with the 100mm macro. I started shooting a lot more with that at this wedding. And I really, really like the way that it looks. But you'll see as we go through the sequence, a lot of those shots are with the 100mm macro. It just allowed me to stay out of the way of the photographer, but still get the shots that I wanted. And then I want to show you one thing here. I had a little bit of a problem. As I started recording this audio with her, I was looking at my levels, and I was afraid that I was going to be peaking. And if the levels are too low, it's okay, but if they start peaking, you've got a big problem. So I actually adjusted them mid-sentence. I should have waited for her to break or have a gap in what she was saying, but I adjusted the mid-sentence, and you can actually hear it here. I try and combat it with this by raising the levels up. The original levels were actually probably fine. I was just being paranoid. I shouldn't have done it. It was a bad decision, but I tried to fix it with just, raising the audio up here. But you can still sort of hear it if you listen.
My search to find a woman I want to spend the rest of my life with was a personal quest that I've always...
Hear that, how it kind of dips really low and then comes back in. So it's not ideal, but it's such a good audio bite that I still wanted to use it anyway. So anyway, so through the champagne toast, we go through 3 quick shots here, pouring the champagne, them, cheersing, a little bit tighter, a punch in of the cheersing. And then I like this shot from the side showing, all of them there. So this is a nice little sequence here, showing in the bridesmaids and the bride, and just really showing off this awesome room.
You know me so well.
And then we cut to a shot here of kind of the preparation, everything getting set up and ready. I like to put a lot of these types of shots in here just to kind of show, there's a lot of hustle and bustle on a wedding day. It's not all just, bride and groom getting ready, all that kind of stuff. So showing a few of these little shots like that really shows all the work that went into this amazing wedding. So this is just a simple tilt down. There was a balcony up here looking down over the reception area here. So
Well, and I never felt
simple
judged or
tilt,
embarrassed to tell you
a few shots of the florist. I did tell him that I was going to be doing this. I was like, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to grab some shots. And he obviously had no problem with that. This is shot, I believe, with the 50 on the C100. You can see this nice bokeh here. I love that. Focusing on this cool, really unique element that they had. This, it's a ladder suspended from the ceiling with all these flowers on it. So showing him setting that up is pretty cool. And now we're on to the groom. For groom prep, it's kind of always hit or miss with what you're going to get. I got some good stuff here. I really like this bottom thirds framing, how it's nice and pretty symmetrical, using this coat rack and whatever. I really just think this is a cool shot. Transition to a shot of him grabbing this. This is a good example of using coverage to make something look like you had multiple cameras, made it look like it was happening seamlessly, when in reality, it happened a few seconds apart from each other.
And I cannot wait to see how much we accomplish.
I don't spend a ton of time on groom prep. I really just want to get, some basic stuff, get in and get out, especially for these short highlight films. But, so we've got him putting his bow tie on, checking it out in the mirror. I like this shot using this as a curtain here to kind of force your eye over here to look at him. Same with this thing, kind of just like, leading lines right to him here, checking himself out in the mirror, getting his bow tie, looking good.
You are my best friend.
And then we're right back to the bridesmaids, getting into the dress. I just really love the way this is backlit, and I've been trying really hard to focus on my exposure to get really, really good exposure here. So as you can see, I'm exposing for these skin tones here, and I'm actually allowing this, part of her arm here and this side of them to fall, not completely into like black, obviously, but just to be more shadowed. And that's something that is sort of hard to naturally fight, because you kind of want everything to be a little bit brighter, or at least I tend to lean that way. But for this one, I'm really trying to trust in my waveform monitor on my C100 and just really allow these skin tones and these highlights to really be there. And I really love the way that it's looking. So I love this shot here. We can listen.
You're my best friend. It sounds cliche, but you truly are. I miss you when you're not around, and I can't wait to see you when you're back.
So I really dig this shot right here. I just love the way that the light is falling, the way that it's exposed. Like, I just think that's like a really cool detail shot. Again, probably with 100mm macro, 2.8 with the IS. I just have really been digging that lens. And then, again, these really tight cinematic shots with the crop just makes it look super awesome. Her looking out the window, nice exposure here on her face. Just really, really awesome. So I can show you kind of what this looks like. I haven't, with a little bit of color correction. So this is the original, and then this is with the color correction. So I just kind of cooled it down a little bit, and I think it looks really awesome. So, and then we got, a shot of the mom smiling. That's a money shot right there. You always want to get nice shots of mom and important people on the day. So this is a nice shot, just showing her helping, her daughter get into her wedding dress, put her veil in.
I love you with all of my heart when you're back. I promise to love you with all of my heart.
Oh, I love this shot so much. All right, so this shot is, again, using this table here really low, using this table to really emphasize that movement. I had to clear some stuff off of here to make it so that it was nice and clean. I didn't want it to be too unnatural, so I left this wine glass here. But I just really, really love this shot. The exposure is dead on. Nice exposure right here on her face. And I just really, really dig this shot. Again, slider on the ground, all the way at 18 on the C100.
With all of my heart, all of my mind, and all of my soul to the end of our days. She did it once naturally, and I almost got it the first time. So I did ask her to do this again. But again, I think this is a really sweet shot with this, using this curtain to kind of draw your eye in here. Exposure is dead on, really close to this window. And this is, again, 100mm macro. Love it. Looks freaking awesome. All right, so now we're on to the first look here. All right, so the first look is always a little bit tricky to cover. And this, is happening really, really quick. We're a little bit behind in our timeline, so we were trying to, we had to set this up really fast. So I'm gonna kind of break this down so you can see exactly what happened. I did have him wearing a recorder, a lav and a recorder, so that was good. So we got some, some nice clean audio off of him. But let's look at these shots here. Okay, so here's the first shot. So this is the 5D Mark III on a tripod, just shooting really nice and wide to get the entire scene here. You have him a little off center, but I knew that she was coming from behind here, so I wanted to just make sure I got the whole scene. This is Ashley's angle. She is shooting on an 85 on her 6D on a monopod off to the side. And then we go back to the 5D angle to show her coming around. And then this is my angle right here with the C100, 100mm macro. And yeah, to get a really nice tight shot of his reaction to seeing her for the first time. You hear what he says. That's a nice little, just that little audio bite is well worth putting that recorder on him early, and then you don't have to worry about it when you get to the ceremony. And then back to Ash's shot for a little kiss, and that's it. That's all we need from the first look. Not much else happened after that, but we were ready to go into portrait time. But so the way I have this set up in here, let me just show you real quick, is I actually have this whole thing nested. So I can come, if I want to, I can come in here, I can edit everything back. So these are all the different tracks, three different layers. But instead of having to deal with all of this in my main edit, I just nest it all like this, and I enable it for multicam. So I can actually, if I click on this clip, I can actually select it to be any of the different angles. And let me show you the color grading. I did have to do some a little bit of work with these clips to make them all match, because we're using 3 different cameras, 3 different lenses, all that kind of stuff. So let me show you what these all looked like without any color correction. Okay, so this one needed the most work. This was the 5D. You can see it's a little green. It was probably a little underexposed, but I fixed it up here, got it looking good. All right, so you can see I brightened it up a little bit, added some green, and I'm trying to get all these to match. So, and then we go to Ashley's original angle. What's going on here? Okay, so you can see here's Ash's angle before and after. Hers was maybe a little hot, just a tiny smidge. I think I brought the shadows down. And again, they all needed a little bit of magenta. They're all a little green. So did that, and then here's my original shot, which actually was the most magenta. So I took a little magenta out of it, and the exposure was pretty close. So just brought down the shadows a tiny bit. So that's the way that I do my color correcting, is I'll actually color correct each clip individually. Kind of like I just showed you there. And then I actually put this color grade adjustment layer right here on top, which is where I'll add any sort of styling that I want to have as universal. So that would be like sharpness and bringing up the blacks a tiny little bit, just to give it that more filmy look that we're going for this year. So right after the first look,
I promise to always nurture a relationship and never forget how
I bring back in the audio from her note. And she's talking about them and the relationship. So I, showed a few nice little portraits, shots of the two of them.
Nurture a relationship and never forget how I feel today. Maggie, I love you so much, more than words can describe. I cannot wait to be your husband in a few short hours.
These are all just monopod shots that I'm grabbing while the photographer is working. I try and do my best to work right alongside the photographer so we can get everything done, be as efficient as possible. I just really make sure that I check to see what lens that she's using. It helps me know how close I can or can't get to the couple. But yeah, these are all pretty much 100mm macro or probably the 50. We're showing some details, the two of them, showing, just some variety. And yeah, I just like this is a nice little sequence here. As we get to the end of her note, we're gonna cut to actually for the first time,
showing the actual shot that I was getting while she was reading this note. So the way that I record my notes and the way I record the note audio is I actually record it all with a shotgun mic. I have an NTG4 Plus from Rode that I actually have right on top of my C100 plugged in with XLR, so I'm able to monitor that. But it has a really low noise floor and it's really directional. So I found that actually to be almost a better option than putting a mic on them. Putting the mic can just be a little bit invasive, and it just, especially with the bride, it's just a big hassle. I have to take it back off of her, all that kind of stuff. So the way I do this is I actually just get really nice and close. This is with the 18 to 35. This is zoomed all the way into 35, so I wanted this nice tight shot here, but I'm probably only 2 or 3 feet away from her. But the mic I have on top of my camera actually is on a shock mount that is adjustable. So I just adjust it. So I frame up my shot, adjust the mic so it's pointing right at her mouth, right where she's speaking, and I make her say a few things that just talk to me at the beginning, get my audio levels nice the way I want them, and then I just let her read it. And I just hold it nice and steady with the monopod. I asked the photographer really nicely beforehand if she can just hold off from shooting while I'm doing this so I can get the best audio possible. And most of the time they say sure, or at least if I ask them, they'll at least shoot a little bit less because they're aware of what's going on. But I cut back to this because I really love that she finishes her note here and gives a nice little smile. She does kind of like look at the camera right here, but that's okay. It's a really just like a cute reaction to her, reading the note. So now we are pretty much just getting ready to transition from the morning into the ceremony. So here, let's take a look here. We've got some nice bridesmaid shots, just showing some details, the whole bridal party. Here's our first Glidecam shot. So this is the 5D Mark III with the 28mm 1.8 on the Glidecam. I think I was shooting around 5.6 with my aperture. You don't want to be too shallow, but you don't want to be too wide either. You want to still have a nice, to match all the other shots. But I was keeping in mind that I'd be using this aspect ratio, so I made sure to just shoot a little bit wider than normal. But again, these detail shots of the girls, these are all just with the 100mm macro for the most part, getting some nice movement. That the IS in the 100mm macro really lets you get these nice dynamic movement shots with your monopod. And I just really love the way the lighting was perfect, all that good stuff. So cool little sequence here just to show the bridesmaids, then the bridal party, and then everybody cheering. Awesome. And then we're just going to do a few little details to kind of transition back over to the ceremony here. Let's clean these up. This is bothering me. That's better. All right. So just a few little details. I always like to shoot the orchestra, or if they have a hired band, because they paid a lot of money for that band to be there, and it's visually appealing. So I always shoot it. One of Ash's main jobs is when she gets her tripod all set up for the ceremony is to just be picking off some shots of the guests. It's a really good transition into the ceremony, and it gives some more people who are there some face time in the film. So this is just, she's on a 7200 on a tripod. This is Ash again, 7200 on the tripod. Here they come. Ash again. Ash is on fire. This is a nice tracking shot following the bridesmaid coming in. With people coming into the ceremony, it's always hard because you don't want to single out a bridesmaid, but at the same time, you can't show every bridesmaid coming in. That would just be boring and unnecessary. So I usually show 1 or 2. I always try to use the maid or matron of honor if they, if I got a good shot of them, just because, they're important. But this is her sister, I'm pretty sure. But I like this framing that she has here with the people here and just kind of tracking with her as she's walking through. This is a good shot. And then I'm in the back. So we have this set up here. As you can see, Ash right here, that she's on a tripod. Like I said, 7200. We have another tripod sitting right here, which I kind of regret now. I'll show you why in a second. But this is the C100 with I want to say a 50 on it. And then I'm in the back on the Glidecam getting everybody, walking around here. I'm kind of just like floating all around back here. I've shot here before, so I also know that I really like this shot. This gravel is nice and reflective, and I wanted these mountains. So cool wide shot of, maid of honor and showing the ceremony space here. And then I knew I wanted to follow the bride out of these doors just for like a cool Glidecam shot. And the wedding coordinator over here accidentally shut the door on me. She just forgot I was going to be there, which is kind of funny. So, but I just, you work around it. You work with what you got. I'm using I bring right in here for the first time. This is some audio from the officiant. Just again, kind of set the scene. And, we want to have good audio to drive our film forward. So,
together in the presence of God.
Again, so, okay, this is the reason here why I'm mad that I left this tripod here. I think this is a cool shot. I like the mountains. You see all the people, her and her dad. I just wish that this tripod wasn't here. It's kind of an eyesore. But I thought the shot was so good that I didn't want to not use it. So the reason that C100 was actually there on that tripod is because I wanted this shot of them standing. This is just a good, okay, here comes the bride. Everyone stands up. And this is a good way to cut from this Glidecam shot back here up to the next shot, which is this shot of her coming down the aisle. And the way I got this shot, this is actually a 60D, which is our fourth camera with that 18-35 Sigma on it, just all the way wide at 18, I'm pretty sure. And the focus is set probably right around here, around like a 4-ish, just to allow them to walk into focus. And I really only need like this 2 seconds. Like this camera is only here for this 2-second shot. I just found that logistically it makes more sense to just put this camera here, get this one shot, even though it's maybe not like the most amazing shot in the whole world, but it is a nice shot that I can get her face without having to worry about Ash being here and then her trying to get back over to her tripod, and without me sacrificing these Glidecam shots in the back, which I really like because I think they add a lot to the film. So for this 2-second shot, this is perfectly fine here. You see her face, you see her dad, here they come down the aisle. All right, so the officiant's mouth doesn't actually match up to what it's saying here, but it's so quick that I'm not super worried about it. So basically, so as soon as she gets down here, actually right before this, let's see if I can show you. Right before this, oh, it's not gonna let me do it. Hold on, I just gotta find the audio and delete it because it's not wanting to open it up. Here we go. Okay, so you can see, maybe back here. If I go far enough back with this clip, you'll be able to see me with the Glidecam following them. Let's see. Maybe it's a little further back. Anyway, I just cut it around where I was. There I am. Okay, so here I am. We're following them with the Glidecam. Again, I know that this camera is here, but I kind of know where they need to be for the frame to be good. So I follow them up here with the Glidecam. You can see me following, and then I back off because I know that the photographer needs a shot here, and I know that this camera, I'm going to be in my own shot. So I duck out of my own way, and then we just go from there. So what I did is, so as soon as I ducked out of the way, I went and I grabbed the C100, take the C100, set it in the back right here, frame up this shot as quickly as possible so that I can get the handoff. Sometimes it's hard for Ash to get a good angle of the handoff from the side over here if the guests are still standing or whatever, if the handoff happens really fast. Luckily it didn't, so we were able to get it a couple different angles. But so yeah, so C100 in the back here, decent, wide-ish framing to get bridesmaids, groomsmen, just kind of like our safety cut to shot if for some reason both of our side cameras get blocked. So this is Ash. This is Ash on a 7200, and then once I get that C100 set up, I take the 5D off of the Glidecam. I actually do a quick little slider shot usually, which I have sitting there waiting for me, and then I put the 5D on a monopod with the 100mm macro, and then I am kind of roaming around the left side. So Ash is on the right side, I'm roaming along the left side, and I'm getting details, shots of hands, cutaways, things like that, and then I'm in charge of the groom's face for speeches, or for when they do their vows, or anything like that. So This you can see here is my angle. I didn't stay here the whole time, I was kind of moving around, but yep, so you can see I'm over here. Ash again is over here shooting this way with the 70-200, which you can see this angle right here. She was doing a good job of getting some different variety of shots of the two of them. And with a, again, 3.5 minute film, you've got to move kind of quickly through these things. I didn't have a ton of time to show a lot from the ceremony. I like these two things, you know, showing the rings. They did this cool thing with the wine. Again, wine is a big theme, being at a winery. You want to show that, and it's, you know, a fun moment. They're laughing, he's laughing, the bridesmaids are laughing. It's a good moment, good shot. And then I actually kind of cut away just to show a little bit less, to kind of just make it keep the flow moving. Show a few detail shots here of the reception site. I love this farm table, a nice little push in on the slider. And then as he's kind of saying this final piece here, let's just listen to this.
It is my distinct pleasure and privilege to present to you for the very first time Mr. and Mrs. James.
Okay, so you can hear what he's saying. It's kind of, you know, the end of the ceremony. Everyone knows what's coming. But we've got some hero shots of them, you know, walking. Again, vineyards, mountains, boom, Glidecam shot. This hero shot here. This is with the Glidecam, just sort of like revolving around them. And then, you know, 100 million macro kiss. So this shot was ice cold. The sun had just gone behind the mountains, and it was all happening really, really fast. But you can see like the original here. Look how cold that is. Oh, that was so, my white balance is so off. But I was able to pretty much make it work. You know, it's not perfect, but it looks good. It matches well enough with all this other stuff, which was actually shot. This was shot before the ceremony. This was shot after. So this one also, so there's a little bit of stabilizer on this, you can see. And then also, you know, a little cool. It was just, again, the sun was going down. We were pressed for time, so it was kind of a run and gun thing. Wish it had been a little warmer, but, you know, all in all, I think I was able to kind of save it pretty well. And then we're right back here for the end of the ceremony here.
Seal your marriage with a kiss.
Cool. Okay, so we have, we go from, this is the C100. I actually brought the C100 further up, switched the lens to the 100 millimeter macro to get this tighter shot. This made it so that the photographer could be still in the middle of the aisle where she needed to be without being in my shot. Because if I had left it in the back and she wanted to go to the middle of the aisle, which I totally get, she would have been in my shot. So I actually brought this up next to her so we could both get the shot we needed. While I brought this up, I actually switched the 5D onto the monopod. So we have this, I knew we only needed 2 shots of this. So we have this straight on, nice tight shot of them while they do the kiss.
You may seal your marriage with a kiss.
And then Ash on the 7200 right here, I knew she had that shot covered. So we have, you know, boom. And then that allowed me to get this shot, this nice backing out, tracking them shot with the Glidecam right as they're coming down. So that actually allowed me to get some really awesome variety here. Hold on, let's turn this off. All right. Get some awesome variety because I had that, you know, a little bit of forethought to switch onto the Glidecam during like that last moment once I had my C100 set up. It was a little risky because I was kind of moving quick, but I really love having this shot of them coming out of the back here. So now, you know, we finished the ceremony and now we're moving right on to the reception. Again, not a whole lot of time to show a ton of cocktail hour stuff. So we just put this one little sequence here of, you know, pouring the drink, putting the limes on there, and boom, we're right into details for the reception, and then boom, we're right in. So let's watch it here, let's listen. You can see here I let this clapping kind of like go past this shot here. This audio, I think is just from his lav, but you know, just letting it kind of flow over makes it more natural, less harsh of a transition. So showing some shots of people coming in, again, pouring the champagne. And here they come. You hear right as that music switches, you can see right here, there's a big bump in the audio, you know, big tempo change. Boom, here they come, right through the doors. Everyone's cheering. We're working some of that audio in of the cheering.
right onto the Glidecam. And then this audio here I actually added like at the very last second. It was a little hot. Out of this at the very last second, I just feel like it needed something. Like from the end of the ceremony to the end of the film, I didn't have any audio. And because it's not a whole lot of time, so I just felt like I really needed one more thing to kind of just like wrap it all up, put a little bow on it. So I brought this audio in here from one of the bridesmaids, and you know, so we have what? So we have Glidecam here of them coming in, a little bit of a jump cut, but I think it works with the high energy of them, you know, onto the dance floor and then right into the first dance.
I'll raise our glasses in a toast to Maggie and James. I want to wish you two a lifetime full of laughter, warmth, love, and of course wine.
And of course wine. See, that wine theme just kind of keeps coming back and playing throughout the whole thing. You're married at a vineyard, and wine was a big part of it. Wine was part of their ceremony because it's important to them. They like to go wine tasting, all that good stuff. So kind of just working it all in, making it feel more personal. So it's not just, you know, not just a generic wedding film. But so for this is me, 85 on the C100. This is Ash on the 70-200 on the 6D. She's on a tripod, so she's probably all the way at 200 or close to it. Love that little moment there. And then a little monopod, a little Glidecam action here. You know, I love these twinkly lights, you know, like of that bokeh. So just a nice, smooth kind of pan down. Little nice reaction shot. Always get reaction shots. This is mom and dad. You know, look how happy they are. Look how happy she is looking over here. This is her sister, or one of the bridesmaids. I can't remember if it's sister or not, but reaction shot. Nice little kiss. This is my shot. Pretty much shooting over the shoulder of a bridesmaid. I kind of like that in the foreground. It's cool. Some nice bokeh here. Again, I want to say this is the 85. Pretty open. It's pretty dark. Transition, a few band shots. The band they had was awesome. They're our local Richmond band. But I got some cool shots of them. Just, you know, again, they paid a lot of money for the band, I'm sure. So you want to have some cool shots of it. It's also 100. I just love this lens flare here. And then we're on to dancing. So for dancing, my approach for dancing is I almost always use the Glidecam. Ash is almost always on the monopod. So that we have some variety, but I'm shooting 28, and again, you can see it's like real dark in here. So I'm pretty much shooting it as wide open as possible. So this is probably like 5,000 ISO at 2.2 at 1/50th of a second, and I will. I've shot it all the way up at 8,000 ISO before at 1.8 if I have to. But yeah, so I just like to get, you know, the best of the best dancing shots here to kind of wrap it up with the high energy part of the song. Just like a cool shot, again, showing everybody some cool movement. I love this light flare here, just kind of backlighting everybody. The white balance in this room was crazy because they had these LEDs that just kept changing from this orange, you see, to this blue, to like purple, and like I just set it and leave it so at least it's all consistent instead of trying to change it all the time. So yeah, so again, this is her dad and his mom. So this is just like, again, cool shot. You can see them here watching, laughing. These are the type of shots you want to really look for, especially in a short film like this, to put all the important people in as many times as you can. Showing the party. Cool shots, soloing people out. Bride and groom on the dance floor. That's the father of the groom. I love this. You know, I took the Glidecam and I kind of just shot up a little bit to get this cool ceiling. I love this barn here. Again, people at the bottom third, I think it's like a really cool shot. And it just adds, it's a little bit different than, you know, all the other shots that I've been getting. But, and like, even for this shot, like I love shooting, you know, I'm focused on her. I have my focus set a little further away, using him to really emphasize the movement of the Glidecam. And all I'm doing is just moving my arms. I'm not even moving my body. Just moving my arms across my body to get this shot. So high energy dancing shots, bride and groom, final dancing shot, and then sparkler exit. So for this sparkler exit, we actually we faked the whole thing. This is just the bridal party who did the sparklers. We had to leave before they did the actual sparkler exit, so we wanted to make sure we were able to document it. So shot it 3 times. The first time they went through and they did a really long kiss in the middle. This is from, I think, the beginning of that one. But we just, again, you just cut it where you can only see the people. And we just did a few quick cuts here to make this look believable. So, you know, take 1, take 2, you know, again, I just followed them from behind. You can see, same guys, just there's 8 people here, but it works. You can't even really tell, it's so fast. And then he's absolutely right there. He's all the way through. That's all the people. But, you know, I cut it right before they go into like total darkness. And then we're right back into the middle where they're kissing, which they did. That was actually the first take. So it was take 2, take 3, take 1. You know what I mean? Just kind of like slick editing. Makes it all look like it happened at once. It was a big sparkler exit and just an awesome ending to the film. And then, you know, right into our little card here, and that's it. So yeah, so that's the film. That's what we put together, 3.5 minutes. I thought it came together really, really well. And then the only other thing that I kind of want to show real quick here is just the color grade that I added. Like I mentioned, I do color correction on each clip individually as it needs it. If a clip doesn't need any color correction, if the exposure and the white balance were right on, I will just leave it, knowing I'm coming back through with this grade here. But I've been loving the Lumetri color panel here in Premiere Pro. It's just really, really awesome. So in my color window here, my color workspace, I have Lumetri scopes up here so I can make sure I'm getting really good exposure and I'm getting good color. And then over here you have the Lumetri color panel, which is awesome because it looks a lot like Lightroom. So I really, really love this. I'm gonna do a whole video on this at some point, but I just kind of want to show what I do for this color grade. So let's find a good shot to use an example with some skin tones in it. Here we go. All right, so this is a good shot to use as an example. Let's get rid of this. We don't need the audio right now. Oops. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so we got our video. Okay, so you can see here okay, so this was the, let's take the grade off completely. Okay, so here is the raw clip straight out of camera. You can see that it's well exposed and it's a good looking shot. But I added, again, just a little bit of color correction. You can see that it's just bringing down the temperature a tiny little bit over here, and that's really all that I did to that clip. But for the color grade, I actually don't do anything in the basic correction. It's all in this creative panel here. And all I'm doing is I'm adding this faded film look, 44%. I just have really been digging the way this looks for the feel that we're going for. I had 9 sharpening, not too much, but just enough. You know, you want to make sure your stuff looks nice and sharp. And then a teeny bit of saturation here. Just because I'm shooting in the wide DR profile in the C100, and I'm actually removing a lot of saturation from the DSLRs by putting it in a flat profile as well. So I want to make sure I'm adding a little bit of that saturation back. And, and I added a tiny bit of contrast to the whole thing. So that's pretty much it. So we go from that to this. So this is with the color correction down here, and then with the color grading you get this. So I just really love the way that the skin tones look, the way that the blacks kind of fall off. So you can see here that we don't have a pure black. I mean, pure black here would be 0. Well, this actually is just this bar down here. It's pure black. But so you can see my black is falling right around 20. Without the grade, it's more around like 5 or 10. So it brings it up a significant amount, but I just really love the way that it makes the film look. Again, I just think it makes it look really cinematic, and that is pretty much the look that we're going for. So let's find a different scene here. See if there's anything that had like some trouble or that took a lot of color correction. Again, so here's without the grade. Here is without the color correction. Oh, that's word stabilizer, sorry. Here we go. So you can see here that this was pretty warm. You can see the white here isn't like a pure white, and it just was a little flat. So let's see what I did here. For this clip, I brought the temperature way down, added some contrast, and that was about it. So again, I try to just do a little bit, and I try and get it really close to in camera as best I can. And then putting the grade on top of that just makes it, you know, nice and cinematic and filmy and all that good stuff. And then let's look at one more. Let's look at the ceremony. Oh yeah, the ceremony I did a ton of work too. So let's see if I can find the C100 shot from
from the ceremony, because the this venue is amazing. The only problem with it is that as the ceremony was going on, the sun was setting, is getting darker and darker and darker. So we're all kind of like trying to rapidly adjust our settings and try and hope that we're all looking the same, which I think we did a pretty good job of. But okay, so let's take the grade off. So here's the shot, and if I take the completely off, you can see how blue this was, and it was pretty well exposed. I had adjusted the exposure, but it's definitely pretty blue. So you can see what I did over here in the editing is I boosted the contrast a ton here, and let's see, brought up the exposure a teeny bit. The exposure on this is like super sensitive. Like 0.5 exposure bump is like way too much for almost anything. So 0.1 is just a tiny bit up. Brought the temperature way up and the tint down a teeny bit. So there's a lot more you can do with this, with like curves and all the color wheels and like all this stuff. I'm not super comfortable with that. I'm really comfortable with Lightroom because I'm used to photo editing. So this, to me, if I can get it to work with just this, and I think that it does work, I'm super happy with that. So then we'll put the grade on it, and again, just kind of brings those blacks up a little bit. And I just love the way the skin tones look. I just love the way the whole thing feels. So cool. All right, so that's about it. That is James and Maggie's film. So I hope you guys found that helpful. I kind of really love breaking these down. It's a new thing for me. It actually helps me to learn from my own films and kind of thinking through why I'm doing things and stuff like that. So if you enjoyed this and you want to see more stuff like that, please leave me a comment. I'd really love to hear your thoughts and things like that. I know it's kind of long, so it's not really just a thing that you can just kind of like browse through as you're eating lunch or riding in the car or something. But for those of you who are filmmakers out there, I think that doing this sort of breaking down films is really helpful to the actual filmmaker, to me, as well as to somebody else who's watching them. So yeah, so let me know what you think. And this has been Tyler from the Herritons, and I will see you in the next one.